So it's hot. We're driving again today. We're actually in a different car today. I don't know if I remember y'all ever seeing inside of this vehicle. This is the smaller, like hatchback, little mini SUV that I have. Oh, is it mini SUV? I don't really know. Like car types. I mean, I just know like SUVs, obviously like the big boys. You know, trucks are obviously like pickup trucks and stuff. Sedans or 4 doors, but like it's like a hatchback, because I know the hatchbacks are just means that like the trunk don't be trunking, it'd be hatchbacking, I guess, but I'm not sure. It's a Nissan Kicks, if that helps anyone determine or help me determine what the hell it is. We're driving to work right now. It's really hot. It's 93 degrees. It's about like 34 33 degrees Celsius. It's warm. I would be riding my bike today, but it's Monday, and on Mondays we do trivia, and usually I try to be the one that drives us there, just to make things easier so that nobody else has to drive. That way it's just me driving. Jesus Christ, that dude's missing a whole bumper and a headlight, and his car is 5 different colors. Hey man, if it runs, it runs, She ain't pretty, but she works. The SUV I'm normally in is currently in the shop. We're looking at some like accelerator thing where like the engine would just kind of rev. It's kind of weird. Also got the ND filter on right now instead. The ND8, and I think I have, because the ND8 limits things down, I think I lowered I actually raised the max ISO just in case. So I forget if it's maxed at 1600 or 3200, but realistically it's probably on at like, we're in the sunlight, or at least outside, so I believe the ISO would be fairly low. I want to say they're probably around 1600, if not lower. But what's really cool is the ND filter, because it darkens things, it will allow us to basically use a lower shutter speed, so let in more light, because it's forced to let in more light. So I think a lower shutter speed, because it's forced to let in more light to try and compensate for the fact that this tinted glass is on it, and because of that it creates more motion blur. So I think, I don't know, can't really see because I'm driving, but hopefully it means that like maybe some of the stuff in the background. I'm also driving behind a truck that's going like 45 miles an hour, so I need to kind of get out of behind him. But normally motion blur in video games is disgusting. You don't want it because it's gross, it's bad. But motion blur in videos is really good because it invokes a like more cinematic feel, especially if you're recording like the 24 frames per second. I record at 30, but does sometimes work. I think if you like shake your hand a lot, I don't know, depending on how that looked, if you're getting some blur on that, that's good. If you're not, that means I need to tweak some settings. But the way you're basically going to get the best cinematic look is if you just don't use auto everything. Auto everything is usually good because it's plug and play. Your settings are chilling. You're compensating for low light, mid light, high light, all these different lighting scenarios you can go into. But if you're like going to be recording outside for like the entirety of it, and the sun is going to be pretty much in the same position, or at least out, you could actually just manually set your ISO. You can say, okay, I want my ISO at like 400 out here. So your ISO is never going to dip below 400. It's never going to go over 400, because you've told it to say, hey, you stay at 400, you do nothing else. You don't compensate for anything. That's it. The only thing that's going to be changing might be the shutter speed. So when you lock the ISO, everything else has to compensate. And I think that's one thing, is I think the camera will prefer to compensate the ISO over the shutter speed. Because what you want, if you want that cinematic feel, if you've locked the ISO and you've darkened everything with like the tinted ND filter, then the shutter speed is like, I have to adjust. Okay, crap. Okay, low ISO. The dark tint from the ND8. I need a slower shutter speed. I need to let more light in. So let's do that. And so let's more light in, lower shutter speed, which is going to introduce that motion blur I was talking about. But I do suspect that with the variable ISO being what it is on the current setting, because I didn't mess with it too much, because I just kind of beep, hit the button to record, I think there might be too much compensation on the ISO side for it to really make a difference. But yeah. And the only thing I don't like, obviously, about being in here and unprepared, because the car I normally drive was supposed to be ready by today, I think, or at least yesterday evening. It was not, unfortunately. The only thing I don't like is I wasn't prepared for that, so the suction cup mount is just chilling in my other car, and so like I just have to hold this bad boy. So you just get this. I personally have really just like the plain, like, standard lens that does the fisheye as little as possible. Because I'll be honest, the Action 6 has a lot of options where you have like the standard lens, you have the natural wide, which is a really good addition in my opinion. I think it's a very good addition because what the natural wide does is it's like a normal wide lens, but it kind of only implements a horizontal like wideness, a horizontal distortion, while doing some internal stuff to remove any vertical distortion. Because sometimes when you have the full wide lens, you have the full fisheye lens. Vertical stuff that should be straight up, instead of it looking straight, you'll see like it's got some curvature now because the wide angle lens is making it kind of arc. And so the natural wide gets rid of that. It gets rid of any vertical distortion while still keeping a pretty wide field of view, which is really nice. It's really cool. Then you have your standard wide lens, which is like the natural wide, but with the introduction or just the possibility of that vertical distortion because they're not taking it out. There's also, I think, like a super wide, which is pretty good because now it's just even wider. And I can't remember if there's even one more after that. I stay away from the wide lenses. I think I just have the wide lens on my like second custom profile that was normally supposed to be for driving and stuff, but I'm just really liking the standard lens because it's making me feel more like I'm just using a regular camera, right? Because action cameras are known for their wide angle lenses, their big FOVs, their capability of capturing like 130 degrees of everything that's on your screen. But for me, especially when it comes to just like the plain vlogging stuff, I don't need 135 degrees. Like if I'm the one in view, or if I'm mostly in view, if some people in this car are mostly in view, you don't really need 135 degrees. You just need to see me, to see them, to see us. And the standard lens is going to introduce literally no distortion at all because we're not fisheyeing this at all. It's basically like a 15 millimeter lens. Gets tweaked a little bit anytime I have rock steady and stuff on, which I do have on, because the camera's in my hand. If I'm shaking too much, it'll kind of counter it. Yeah, I'm really liking the ND filter. It's cute. It's cute. It's a heavy tint. I took out the CPL because I kind of figured that, while I mentioned the last video, or one of the other last videos, that the CPL kind of feels like an ND4. Tint-wise, that's probably true, but what's more true, or at least more accurate, is not only is the fact that it's a slight tint, it also does a lot of lighting stuff that the ND8s don't. The ND filters are just tints. They are just darkening the crap or the super crap out of whatever is on the camera, depending if you do the ND8, the ND16, the ND32. It's basically just darkening it and adding some good contrast. But the CPL does a lot of extra lighting stuff and sort of tweaks and stuff that I was like, oh wait, I kind of forgot that this isn't, because if it was an ND4 filter, basically, it would call it an ND4. They wouldn't say it's a CPL. I have no idea what CPL stands for. I don't know. Clear, polarized light, or I don't know. I feel like the P is definitely polarized. Anytime you're talking about lenses and stuff, and you got a P involved, it's probably for polarized. But I'm not really sure. So I decided to, at least for now, abandon the CPL. We're driving. About to get off the freeway. Almost there. I'll see about it's fairly dark in the pub. It's really loud, so I just feel like I wouldn't get any shots of like actual conversation or discussion or trivia-ing. I think what you will most likely see, if anything, will kind of just be maybe the food I order, because this pub has some really good food. The food I order, if I get something, maybe like audio list shot. Like what you're gonna see is maybe, if anything, just like B-roll while we're at the pub, because I have very strong doubts that I will get good footage with good audio. I might be able to get some decent footage based on the lighting. Definitely will probably have to take off the ND filter or bump the ISO up like crazy to compensate for the fact that we're in a fairly dimly lit pub. But we'll see. I'll definitely try to record some of the journey over there, because it is in a nice little like shopping center. There's like movie theater, a bunch of restaurants. There's like loft apartments. There's like literally there's apartments that live like pretty much right above the pub. It's crazy. Could you imagine living right above a pub or a bar? You could just get sloshed like no problem. You know, you'll get super drunk and they'll be like, hey, give me your keys, and you're like, nah, buddy, I'm walking upstairs. Yeah, wish me luck on the stairs, all right? You ain't got to worry about me driving. Yeah, I think I might have to play around with it. I feel like there might be a little bit of motion blur. Instead of trying to like point your camera at like trees and cars and stuff, that will probably have some motion blur. But the main way to check motion blur based on different shutter speeds is to just like wave your hand like a maniac in front of the camera, because the lower shutter speeds will have the blur. It will not fully track your hand, because the thing about high shutter speeds is it basically, you think of it more like when you're with a camera taking pictures instead of taking video. I think is more the easy way to explain it. With the really high shutter speed, you're basically reducing the time it takes for that shutter to go and take a picture. So the low shutter speed, like they say that's like 1/30th of a second or 1/20th of a second. That's like, obviously it's still really freaking fast because it's less than a second, but picture it, if you would, as being like the whereas like that's, you want to do that with like portraits, with stills, with whatever your subject is being just perfectly still, they're not moving. And they also do it with like, they recommend doing low shutter speeds when you have like camera on a tripod and you want to take a picture of like a waterfall or, you know, landscapes and stuff like that. Because for the most part, the subject of your photo, the landscape, the cliffs, the mountains, the waterfall, you know, all of these things, they're not moving. Water's moving on the waterfall, but we'll get into that. Low shutter speed means it's going to be taking a pretty long picture, even though it's still super fast. But they have also like long exposure photos where instead of having your photo taken in like a 30th of a second, you have to take like a quarter of a second, a full second to take this picture. And so now you're getting the real long exposure stuff, which is more leaning towards, like I said, what you do for like waterfalls and other like, you know, landscapes and stuff. And what's really cool or really interesting is that with the mountains and stuff, you're not going to notice unless there's a lot of movement around it, which there usually isn't because it's landscape, especially for busy city streets, and you want to get a photo of like this nice building or whatever, but it's, you know, you're never gonna not have people. Like if you're like New York or something, there's always hundreds of people walking around. Here's a trick. You take your tripod, you take your camera, you stick it on your trusty tripod, and you set your shutter speed like just to freaking 30 seconds, and you just hit it and you wait. Well, okay, before you hit it, you should adjust whatever settings you can to, because obviously when you're letting in that much, letting the shutter stay open for that long before it snaps the picture, you're gonna get a really bright picture. So, ND filters, very good for that. Use that, mess with the ISO, mess with everything else, but the shutter speed. You want the shutter speed to be about 30 seconds or just super long. Then, what's basically gonna happen is, and you have probably seen these with like those light videos, or pictures where like someone has like strings of light floating around them. That's not like edited, that's like a long exposure photo where that person stands completely still and somebody runs around with like light strings all around them, and you get this trailing of the light. Now, back to the big busy city street. You do the same thing. You have your 30-second shutter speed, and then you just hit it, and what's basically going to happen is The building, since it doesn't move, is going to be perfectly still, 100% like solid, beautifully in focus, and all the people rushing by, bustling by, walking by, they're basically going to be invisible. It's going to kind of look like a ghost town, sort of, where even at its worst, you'll have maybe some people at like 10% opacity, where like you kind of look in and you're like, there's people there, which kind of lends to like a cool, like I said, kind of ghost town look to it. And also there might be a person or two that's just like posted up on the street corner that's just like smoking a cigarette or like, hanging out. So they're going to be a lot more solid in the picture, but that's fine. Because you're going from getting this really cool picture you wanted to get that has like 100 people to now having like 5 really clear people. And so kind of like that, where the stuff that's in motion ends up blurring so hard that it vanishes right before your eyes. Obviously that's the extreme end of motion blur, where they just vanish completely. But it's a similar idea to where for cinematic feels, you want that motion blur. And with the low enough shutter speed and everything else accounted for properly, you're going to be good. Because right now what the camera's doing, probably, is even if it wants to have a low shutter speed, the ISO is tweaking in such a way that it's not letting that happen. And it's saying, actually, we're going to be like 1/100th of a second, 1/200th of a second. So like, if I do this, I think my hand is pretty solid. Because when you have the higher shutter speeds, the faster shutter speeds, you think about, capturing a sports event, taking a picture of something moving fast, animals, things like that. You want to be able to like snap this picture and it look like it's frozen in frame. And there's some tricks you can do where like when you're tracking that thing, instead of just snapping it, you kind of like follow it so that when it's in frame centered and you're like matching its kind of movement along like in front of you, it will be frozen solid like it should be. But what's really cool is you add, since you're moving the camera around, it captures motion blur around that thing, which is really cool. What I have right now, probably not the most ideal, but at least I'm getting some good color contrast and stuff, hopefully from the ND filter. It just means that, unfortunately, not getting the motion blur like I thought I would, but that's okay. I didn't really need motion blur today because I was kind of just driving to work. We're here, I gotta go inside, do worky things, unfortunately, but I will catch you guys probably on the way to trivia, but we'll see you. A little bit.
Yeah, I know. I can't leave.
The one. You call me.
Yeah.
Just get them.
So
show up.
the 2 options we have are we're seeing it in the IMAX big format.
In the novel. Should I keep going?
Yeah, you're good.
But that's why it was super fun because like he would really regret it later, or he would just OD on medicinal pills.
So we got there kind of late. Almost missed the first round, unfortunately. We got there just in time to like catch the end of it and see if we could contribute anything to like the couple questions we were missing. We could not. Had no idea what the last couple answers were. I did order some food, but I was so hungry I forgot to record it because I was freaking starving. I was digging right in like immediately. It was pretty good. I got some bangers and mash. I got some good mashed potatoes, a couple of Irish sausages, I guess. Irish sausages, mashed potatoes, and like some crispy Brussels sprouts. Oh my god, it's dark. I'm in the driving through the, I don't know, what would you call this? It's not like a ravine, but like not cavern. The Valley of Death. I think it's like a valley. It's like between 2 hills, basically. Is that a valley? I'll have to Google my types of road vehicle pathways and stuff. Also, like, if it was just like me, Dana, and Brian, I'd be like even more excited to do stuff and have this out. But it's with some like friends of, or a family of a friend. So the reason we first started going to trivia was one of the girls that used to work for me. Apparently she would go every single Monday. So we're always, packing up. We close at like 7 and trivia starts at 7:30. And every time without fail, Monday, she would like speed to finish. She would always like try her best to finish as quickly as possible, and always like kind of worried me. Like, why are you like rushing out so much? And I asked her one day, I was like, why do you always leave so fast on Mondays? She was like, oh, because I try to like hurry up and make it to trivia. She's like, yeah, no, we do this trivia at this pub. It's like every Monday 7:30, and if I'm lucky and I leave early enough, I get there like just in time for round one. I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty interesting. And then she was like, if you guys want to go, if you guys ever want to go, let me know. And I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, that would be kind of neat. I've never gone to like a trivia night at the time, especially because we weren't like that close really. I wasn't sure if she was like genuinely offering, or if it was like just one of those like sort of pity offerings where it's like, oh yeah, like she said it just to be nice and like didn't mean it at all. And then if I had taken her up on it, she'd be like, ooh, I don't know about that. Left it alone for like a few weeks, and then eventually we all started getting a little closer, like the four of us, and then we basically started hanging out like after work, like in work. Sometimes we'd go like out to get like dinner and stuff together. After a little bit of doing that and like being a little more friendly with each other, I was like, so how about trivia? Do you is it offer still on the table? Are you still down to like let us join? And she was like, hell yeah, come on down. So we went, and it's been awesome. We've been going like pretty much every Monday for like, I don't even know the first time. I want to say like almost a year now. Building up to it, I think. And the people she goes to trivia with, originally, it was her sister, her dad, and usually her sister brings her roommate. But for the most part, it was the girl that worked for me, her sister, and her dad were like the main three. Unfortunately, that girl, she has moved away. She's gone off to live somewhere else. And we really enjoyed going. We've been going for like almost a year now. And a couple months ago when she was barely leaving, you know, she was telling us about it. And then I mentioned to her, I was like, you're leaving. Would it be awkward if we still went to trivia with your family? do we stop being the +3 now that you're gone? And she was like, no, like, go ahead, like, it's awesome, you guys are great, you know, it's a fun time, the more the merrier. And I was like, hell yeah. So we've been going ever since she left, and speeding up with like her sister and her dad. We're just having a good time. That's where the pub is that's called McAllen. It's in Brea. If you're ever in Brea, in the Brea Village, I believe it is, near where the like, is it Color Me Mine, and like near where the movie theater is. Just go down a little ways, it's there. Awesome vibes. Every Monday they do trivia. Every weeknight is like something different. I don't know what they do the other nights, but I know Monday for sure is trivia night. Go there, have fun, try their food. They got really good food. They got good short rib, good burgers, good grilled cheese, good tomato soup. They got great stuff. Good chili. I recommend it. It's one of my favorite places to go. And every time I go, I pretty much eat something because we're there like for dinner. Like I haven't eaten anything since before work, and it's now like a couple hours after work. God, it is super dark. I should have messed with the settings. I was hoping that the like ambient lighting around me would have been enough, but it's fine. You guys aren't here for being able to see me. You guys are just here for being able to hear me. I could instead just put my camera on the road and let you guys see where I'm going, or where I'm driving. Just listen to the sound of my voice while just watch me speed down this highway. So yeah, trivia was great. We actually came in second place tonight, which is really good. I really like the rewards they give for the top three. Third place gets, I think, $25. Basically, give you like a $25 gift card. I think second place gets $50, and then first place gets $75. We've gone up and down. I think the worst we ever gone was like 7th place. There was a few weeks we were like on a run where we like started at 5th place. Then the next week we just kept climbing. Next week we were at 4th, 3rd after that, 2nd, the week after that, 1st. And I think we maintained like 1st for another couple weeks, and then slowly I trailed back to 2nd, back to 3rd. But it's honestly, it's a real great time. The guy that does it, Steven, he's really cool. He's funny. He does good trivia. But for the most part, we go pretty much every single Monday, unless too many of us aren't feeling up to it. Like if one of us might miss, it's okay. But usually if two of us miss, we're like, oh yeah, might as well just call it. We'll reconvene next week, you know. It's every week, so we're not really missing too much anytime. No, son of a bitch, my mic is off. Are you kidding me? So that means that unfortunately the past like 10 minutes of me talking have sounded not as good as they could have. Which I guess would be kind of a good way to test the microphone on the Action 6, like the internal microphone. Because I never really messed with them because, I mean, when I got this Action 6, I already had the mic 2. So I was already gonna be using wireless mic with it. I wasn't gonna like jump into using internal stuff. And then shortly after getting it, I got the mic 3. So then here we are now using the mic 3. Yeah, so that's definitely gonna be interesting to see how the mics compare. Obviously, I'm expecting the internal mic to not be as good because it's kind of a big open-ended microphone that's trying to capture sound 360 degrees. But we'll see. We're most of the way home now. We're gonna chill, coast for the rest of the way. Turn on my music because at some point my music stopped playing for some reason. So we'll see about that. I'm not gonna turn the camera back on myself because it's super dark. You won't see me. You won't get to see my usual piece. See my ugly face while I say goodbye to you guys. But as always, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and we will see you guys next time. Bye.